Bolivia is a relatively undeveloped country in the heart of South America. To explore this unpolished diamond, fly to its administrative capital, La Paz, which sits high on the Bolivian plateau at a breathtaking altitude of about 12,000 feet. Bolivia may be poor, but it has a wealth of natural treasures. Riches that shine through in the country's infinite salt deserts, extraordinary islands, mountains of silver, tropical lowlands, and high altiplanos where alpacas roam. La Paz means peace, and this high-altitude city is the welcoming tourism capital of Bolivia. Like Bolivia, La Paz may be rough around the edges, but sparkles inside. Look beyond the city's back-to-basics architecture, cuisine, and lifestyle to find some real jewels. From 16th century Spanish colonial mansions to modern buildings modeled on pre-Columbian temples. Despite all the destruction caused by the Spanish, these conquistadors shaped and polished Bolivia's cities. Upon founding La Paz, they erected brilliant buildings, such as the National Congress and the Presidential Palace, which are still eye-catchers on Plaza Murillo today. As devout Catholics, the Spanish also erected the city's Metropolitan Cathedral, dedicated to the Lady of Peace. While 21st century comforts slowly trickle in, Bolivia is still a land of unbreakable traditions. Many residents embrace their Quechua, Aymara, and Inca heritage, and indigenous women still proudly wear the colorful clothing of the highlands. Join them on the Plaza San Francisco, a convenient meeting point in the heart of the city. Its late 18th century basilica, dedicated to Francis of Assisi, is home to an art museum with a precious collection of historic paintings. See artworks by modern artists at the Museo Nacional de Arte, housed in a well-preserved Spanish colonial mansion. For a cultural experience of a different kind, visit the nearby Witches' Market to marvel at the mummified llamas, carved amulets, and potent herbal remedies. On the Mirador at La Cacota, see how the city's outer suburbs cling to the steep mountainsides and spill out in the valley below. Here you can get your first glimpse of the ragged peaks of the surrounding valley, beckoning you to leave the city behind to explore Bolivia's natural gems. The Valle de la Luna was chiseled by the masons of time, creating the moon-like landscape that gave it its name. Make your way up or around the naturally cleaved stones, which come in all shapes and sizes. Another hidden treasure in the department of La Paz is the Tiahuanaco Cultural Heritage Site, dating back some 2,500 years. But it's in nearby Lake Titicaca that Bolivia really sparkles. Titicaca is a half a day by bus from La Paz and is one of the world's highest navigable lakes. This jewel in the crown of South America straddles the Peruvian border and is well worth exploring. The icy cold lake has breathtaking islands and is home to one of the world's oldest surviving cultures, the Uru people. Hundreds of Uros still live on spongy floating islands made of reed and somehow survive in the extreme climate at altitude. Treat yourself to their handicrafts, which they sell to maintain a living on the lake, or just watch them enjoy the simple pleasures of life. The region's rugged landscapes make for harsh living conditions, and it takes an adventurous travel to appreciate the untapped potential that this emerging South American nation offers. It becomes even more obvious that Bolivia is a diamond in the rough if you fly south to Salar de Uyuni, the endless salt plains in Bolivia's south. As you skim over its polished surface in a four-wheel drive, you'll come across boiling hot springs and glistening salt lakes. The few high points of this remote terrain shimmer on the horizon like a mirage in a desert. For a unique experience, stay in a hotel made almost entirely out of salt before you return to civilization. The gateway to the salt plains is Potosí, a place where you can mingle with the locals and admire a blend of architectural styles. A highlight attraction here is walking over the roof of the San Francisco convent to find a sea of terracotta at your feet. In the distance, Cerro Rico, which means rich hill, was once a bountiful silver and tin deposit. These precious metals provided the fortunes needed to establish the constitutional capital, Sucre, a 3-hour drive away. As with diamonds, it's the core that is the most brilliant, and that certainly is the case with this central Bolivian city. Nicknamed Ciudad Blanca, the White City, Sucre's whitewashed colonial buildings and fountains reflect the sunlight. Exploring Bolivia holds the promise of discovery, the prospect of finding something precious where few have cared to look. Whether you visit its heritage cities to chase the romance of the days gone by or engage in thrilling outdoor adventures, you'll be rewarded with beautiful memories for life. End your tour of Bolivia back in La Paz. But before you fly out, take one last look over the valley from the Quiliculi lookout. Local legend states that the snow-capped peaks of Illimani Mountain are there to protect this city in the clouds, Bolivia's hidden gem. At night, the valley twinkles, beckoning you to come and see what lies beneath.
Rio de Janeiro, in southeast Brazil, is one of South America's most famous hubs of energy and excitement. Rio fills the narrow strip between the Atlantic Ocean and the Serra do Mar coastal forest and is home to some 16 million people. In Rio de Janeiro, the soft glow of dawn reveals golden shores and an urban jungle dotted with mountain peaks. At this early hour, the coastline is a sea of serenity, but soon enough, energetic locals fill the scene. Rio's seductive resort beaches have a rejuvenating effect that appeals to everyone. With each sunrise, the city readies itself to put on a brand new show. Cariocas, as the residents are known, take pride in expressing themselves in less conventional ways. Even the city's main house of worship is unorthodox. The Metropolitan Cathedral of Saint Sebastian is modeled after a Mayan temple, a staircase to the sun. But it's the statue of Christ the Redeemer that takes center stage on Rio's skyline. Take the 20-minute ride through the Tijuca rainforest to the top of Corcovado Mountain and stand at the feet of this world-famous landmark. With arms outstretched in a gesture of peace, this statue of Jesus gazes down upon all of Rio, from the waterfront neighborhoods to the poor favelas that cling to the mountain slopes. Just across the water lays Rio's most iconic peak, Sugarloaf Mountain. Hang on tight as the cable car carries you to the lookout. Then, relax and enjoy the views over the city, bay, and beaches below. People from all walks of life are drawn to Rio de Janeiro's most talked about beach, Copacabana. It's usually packed with sun worshippers, but you can always find room on its calm waters. If you're looking for waves, head out to Prainha. This protected eco-park lacks high-rise hotels and is a nice contrast to Rio's other beaches. Closer to downtown, Barra da Tijuca and Ipanema Beach are great places for people watching or a game of volleyball with the locals. In Ipanema, shop for souvenirs at the Sunday Hippie Fair. Or join the dancers during the street parties that often erupt here around Carnaval and New Year. At times, it's as if Rio is one big parade of samba, capoeira, and carnaval. In the heart of the city is Cinelândia. This historic square is home to the eclectic Municipal Theater and the National Museum of Fine Arts. Admire works by some of Brazil's greatest artists and see how the Portuguese left their mark on this city when they first arrived on New Year's Day in 1502. Discover Brazil's pre-colonial times at the National History Museum. Located close to the port, the building was once part of the city's defenses. Rio is blessed with elegant public parks, such as Parque Henrique Lage. The formal gardens of Quinta da Boa Vista surround the Imperial Palace, the home of Brazilian royalty before the country declared itself a republic. The local lust for life is reflected in the cuisine, whether it be a traditional feast of grilled meat or simply a cool drink straight from a coconut. But of course, nothing ignites the passion of Rio's residents like football. Even between games, a visit to the Maracanã football stadium will give you a taste of this national obsession. Don't leave Rio before walking the Selarón steps. The eccentric artist Jorge Selarón devoted much of his life paving the way for a more colorful passage from the bohemian Santa Teresa area to the nightlife district of Lapa. Tiles were donated from all over the world, resulting in a remarkable mosaic. No wonder they call Rio de Janeiro the Cidade Maravilhosa, the marvelous city. Seeing the sun set over the Guanabara Bay is like watching the finale of a spectacular show. When the curtain goes down, you can't help but wait for the encore.
Mexico's Riviera Maya is situated on the Caribbean side of the Yucatan Peninsula, just south of Cancun. Stretching down the coast for over 60 miles, the Riviera Maya takes in fabulous beaches, ancient Mayan ruins, and the spectacular island of Cozumel. The Riviera Maya starts at Puerto Morelos. Just a half-hour drive from Cancun, this laid-back fishing town feels 1,000,000 miles away from the bright lights of Yucatan's party capital. Not far from town is the Crococún Zoo, a great place to say hola to the region's wildlife. All the way down the coastline, there are family-friendly beaches to explore, such as Akumal Beach and Half Moon Bay. When it's time to climb out of the hammock, head to the Riviera Maya's largest town. Filled with boutique hotels, fine restaurants, and designer stores, Playa del Carmen has a distinctly European feel. The town works hard to preserve its small-town, artistic atmosphere and is a great base from which to explore the Riviera's other treasures. From Playa del Carmen, hop on a ferry to the island of Cozumel, Mexico's largest Caribbean island. Cozumel is filled with dense jungles, sleepy villages, and perfect beaches. It's the kind of place where people come for the day and end up staying for a month. Wander around the island's main town, San Miguel, and watch the boats slipping in and out of the harbor. Learn about village life in the time before alarm clocks. Visit ancient cenotes, the freshwater pools which quench the thirst and sustain the spirits of the ancient Mayans. Cozumel is part of the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef, the world's second largest reef. Head down to Palancar and Chancanab on the island's sheltered western side, where calmer waters make exploring the reef a breeze, even for beginners. For wilder waters, head to the Punta Sur and Punta Celerine on the island's southeastern tip. Explore the rich mangrove and lagoon habitats, but don't stray off the path. Climb to the top of the lighthouse, then visit the Navigation Museum, which preserves the island's maritime history. At the end of a Long Island day, head to the nearest beachside cantina and just soak up the views with a cold cerveza. The Mayans appreciated fine views too. Back on the mainland, the ancient city of Tulum occupies some of the nicest real estate in all of Mexico. Sitting high on coastal cliffs, these 13th century ruins were one of Mexico's first resorts, a place where Mayan royalty could take the time to greet the sun each day. Bienvenido to the Riviera Maya, a place where life's most important rituals go on forever.
Far away, at the fabled edge of the world, the natural wonders of Patagonia await. This last frontier of South America slopes down from the Andes towards Antarctica, covering the sparsely inhabited southern regions of both Chile and Argentina. No destination captures the imagination like Patagonia. This is a land of legendary beauty, where Mother Nature runs the show. Prepare to feel dwarfed by the mighty volcanoes, towering glaciers, and floating icebergs that are sure to cross your path. In this remote region, even the most firmly planted human footprint is soon covered under blankets of snow, erased by westerly winds or washed away by lapping waves. With its mosaic of green steppe plains and blue mountain lakes, framed by wooded hills of ever-changing colors, Patagonia paints a mesmerizing picture. White-capped peaks of silvery mountains puncture the horizon, while soaring condors and solitary gauchos bring this seemingly spellbound landscape to life. This untamed land has moods as changeable as the weather, and can be rugged and desolate, as well as breathtakingly beautiful and inviting. Everything south of here is too harsh for human settlement, and it's this edge-of-the-world feeling that has captivated intrepid souls for centuries. First to arrive was the 16th century Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan, who named the region Patagonia, the land of the big feet. Some 300 years later, a young Charles Darwin contributed to the myth that this was once a land of giants by collecting the remains of huge extinct animals. Now, almost 2 centuries later, Patagonia is still a place of discovery. While the region has become much easier to reach, its mythical appeal remains. Whether you set out on a road trip or explore its far corners by cruise ship or plane, this is bound to be the journey of a lifetime. On the Argentinian side, one of Patagonia's most relaxing day trips takes you from sleepy San Martín de los Andes to Villa La Angostura. Simply follow the scenic road of the Seven Lakes, which takes in 2 water-rich national parks. This road trip will bring you to San Carlos de Bariloche, a popular mountain resort on the shores of Lake Nahuel Huapi. The town has all the facilities and outdoor pursuits of the Swiss Alps, without the price tag. When roaming south along the famous Ruta 40, take a detour to the town of El Chaltén, Argentina's trekking capital in the southern Andes. Hike to the idyllic Laguna Capri, or to even higher lookout points to gaze up at the moody Fitzroy Mountain. Other trails provide scenic views of the jagged peaks of Cerro Torre, which only few dare to climb. Spend the night in El Calafate, just a few hours to the south. Stock up on supplies and try the regional specialty of asado, whole lamb grilled over an open fire. El Calafate is nestled on the southern shores of Lago Argentino, the gateway lake to Los Glaciares National Park. Embark on an epic journey to one of nature's greatest gifts, the Perito Moreno Glacier. If ice trekking over its slippery surface doesn't warm you up, perhaps a whiskey on the rocks will. From the safety of a nearby viewing platform, observe the ever-changing face of its terminus, which reaches some 200 feet above sea level. This glacier is the world's third largest freshwater reserve. Most Perito Moreno tours also take in the milky waters of Canal Uppsala, nature's own exhibit space for some of the most spectacular sculptures on Earth, floating icebergs shaped by water and wind. All the way south, the Strait of Magellan separates the far corner of Patagonia from mainland Argentina. When Magellan first arrived here, he spotted the campfires of native tribes and named the archipelago Tierra del Fuego, the land of fire. You can get there by boat, but most visitors simply fly to the province's capital, Ushuaia, the southernmost city in the world. This former penal colony was once a cold and brutal place of punishment, but now extends a warm welcome to all newcomers. In the morning, board the end-of-the-world train for an unforgettable day trip to Tierra del Fuego National Park. An even more scenic way to reach this reserve is joining a cruise along the Beagle Channel, the closest you can get to experiencing Antarctica without actually going there. See the Magellanic cormorants flock to Bird Island and then observe the lazing giants on Seal Island. The nearby Les Éclaireurs lighthouse has marked this passageway to Chile for about 100 years. Once you've reached the wondrous domain of Tierra del Fuego National Park, you have come to the end of your Argentinian explorations. From here, you can either return to Ushuaia and fly to Buenos Aires or cross over into Chile, to explore the west coast of Patagonia, where more adventures await. On the Chilean side, you can find fascinating historic and cultural attractions in pretty colonial cities, such as the regional capital, Punta Arenas. After a day of sightseeing in the outdoors, warm up with the local flavors that await in the region's inviting restaurants. In much of Chilean Patagonia, forests, lakes, snow-capped mountains, rivers, and volcanoes dominate the landscape. With more than half of this gigantic region declared a protected wilderness area, you'll find untouched nature everywhere you go. On your way north, take a little detour to the Milodon Cave. This prehistoric shelter held the remains of a giant ground-dwelling sloth and other huge extinct species. It was discoveries like these that sparked Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection. Not far from the cave, the granite peaks of Torres del Paine loom over Chile's windswept tundra like towering castles in the sky. This dramatic national park is brimming with lakes in many shades of blue and green, some with distinctive white banks and others that spill out into gorgeous waterfalls, such as Salto Grande. Continue north until you spot the spectacular outline of the Osorno volcano. This fearsome giant is the focal point of Los Lagos, the lake region that forms the northern border of Chilean Patagonia. Straddling the opposite shore of Lake Yanquihue is the small town of Puerto Varas, a good place to end your Patagonia expedition. After collecting some mementos, you can either return to Bariloche in Argentina by crossing the border via the lakes, or drive north for a stopover in Pucón and Villerica before flying out from the capital, Santiago de Chile. Travel to the land that time forgot, to walk in the footsteps of early explorers, or make a new discovery all of your own. This magical wilderness at the far edge of the world reminds us that we are just temporary spectators of nature's infinite beauty. Peru's northern coastline is blessed with a year-round mild climate and perfect sets of rolling waves. It's also home to the picturesque colonial city of Trujillo. Yet there is another much more fascinating reason why you should visit. Almost 2,000 years ago, the first settlers of the Moche Valley achieved the seemingly impossible with their bare hands. They created farmland in the desert, fishermen's rafts that could surf the waves, fine jewelry crafted from crude metals, and entire cities out of mud. From the treasure trove of ruins in the sand-swept desert plains, it's clear that the Peruvians developed impressive agricultural, architectural, and artistic insights long before the Europeans arrived. When the Spanish did come, they swiftly created one of Peru's finest and largest cities, Trujillo. Exploring its compact city center is like browsing an open-air museum of Spanish colonial architecture. Everywhere you go, you'll pass colorful mansions adorned with tall window grilles and enclosed wooden balconies. For more than 400 years, the exterior of the cathedral on the northern end of the Plaza de Armas has remained largely unchanged. Step inside to see precious religious paintings and admire the cathedral's central altarpiece with its twisting columns. From the historic center, it's only a short taxi ride to the 17th century mansion of Trujillo's Archaeological Museum. Its exhibits paint a picture of the pre-Columbian peoples of northern Peru. The fascinating pieces they left behind help us piece together their story. Start your tour of the region's famous ruins at the Temples of the Sun and the Moon. Made from millions of sun-dried bricks, these were once the largest adobe pyramids in the world. While the language of the Moche people has been lost, we can interpret their habits and beliefs through their elaborate murals and brilliantly expressive artworks. They were warriors who sacrificed their rivals to appease the gods. Yet their pottery shows there was also harmony in their fierce existence. Like the Egyptians, the Moche buried their elite in pyramids. See one of the world's most mysterious mummies at the coastal site of El Brujo, where, as recent as 2005, the Lady of Cao was discovered. The tomb of this tattooed Moche woman also held copper darts and jewelry, suggesting that she was a priestess or warrior leader. It's believed that relentless El Niño rains caused the demise of the Moche culture. By the time the Chimu people arrived, around 900 AD, the landscape had returned to arid coast. Like the Moche, the Chimu cultivated reed to make fishing rafts and used the clay and minerals from the river valley for their building bricks and decorations. Visit their capital, Chan Chan, to explore what was once the largest adobe city in the Americas. Follow the city's maze of corridors to central courtyards, which were decorated with fishnet patterns and animal reliefs. In the late 15th century, the Incas came and assimilated the Chimu culture into their own. Less than 60 years later, the Spanish followed, determined to conquer the New World. These conquistadors stripped the temples and tombs of gold and artifacts and created a new city, which they named Trujillo. They also introduced the purebred Paso horse to the region. World famous for its gait, it has what the locals call brio, a mixture of nobility, pride, and fire. These characteristics proved a perfect match for the spirited Peruvians from the northern desert. And together they perform the Marinera, a show of elegant seduction and fierce resistance. With its long history of resilient people, Trujillo was the first Peruvian city to proclaim independence from Spain in 1820, an event that is commemorated by the Freedom Monument on the central Plaza de Armas. One of South America's revolutionary heroes, the liberator Simón Bolívar, stayed at Casa Urquiaga, which is open to visitors. Colonial architecture, ancient art, and pyramid temples, combined with proud Latino traditions, have made Trujillo the Peruvian capital of culture. Like an oasis in the desert, discovering Trujillo is replenishing for both the body and soul. It's refreshing to see that from these barren grounds, such creativity can sprout.